Welcome back to Second Breakfast in our ongoing Summerween series, celebrating hot weather and horror movies by bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of a walking cliche. As a man with alarmingly pink skin, I would say stunningly pink skin.
I would not say stunningly. That's harsh.
Okay. It depends on the lighting.
Just a light tinge.
I am tickled pink that I have become this walking cliche.
Okay.
The number of comments, whether it's in the emails, Seth on the Patreon, or comments on other YouTube videos, I find it so funny that people just assume, and to some extent demand, that I make everything about Faustus. And The Long Walk was such an overwhelming experience. We just did an episode on it yesterday, I think, and it was an hour of talking about this harrowing, phenomenal film, which I almost had to walk out of because it was so affecting and overwhelming. I didn't even think about Faustus.
Neither did I.
But by popular demand, I guess I have to.
I guess you have to. Listener, I need you to understand some context here. Cam sat me down and said, hey, we need to record a follow-up to our Long Walk episode. I said, okay, what's it about? And he said, it's better if you don't know. So I have no idea what's going on.
It was either this or like a 1,000-word comment responding to one of the...
Right.
So I figured this would be... Now I can just point them in this direction.
So you and I, listener, are just here for the ride.
Genuinely, I did these notes in like 5 minutes.
That's
so we're riffing here.
I love this about you.
I didn't think about the Faustus angle of this at all.
No.
But The Long Walk is absolutely a Faust fable. We have to play with it. It'll just be a few minutes in and out. But holy shit, man. Okay, so the opening...
Can I guess?
No, because that ruins the magic.
Okay, fine.
At this point, you can do this without me.
Okay.
But the opening of the film, you learn the rules of The Long Walk, which could also be the
contract.
The terms of the contract that the boys literally sign up for. And as a side note, it's extra dystopian that instead of Faustus trading his soul for 24 years of whatever the fuck service from Mephistopheles, here the boys are trading their lives for the chance at money. It's a lottery system.
Right.
And the inhuman salesman in this deal, who's so evil that we almost never see his eyes because he's got these big aviators on, that's Mark Hamill. He's the evil general. He's our Mephistopheles.
Okay.
So when The Long Walk begins and we jump into the drama of the story, we have a few dozen young Faustuses vying for the prize. And again, in this incredibly bleak remix of the classic Faustian structure, the terms of this contract are unfixed. There's no guarantee of 24 years of whatever you want in the cosmos. It's interesting. It's flipped because they have to serve Mephistopheles for as long as they can, for as long as they can keep up. The deal is unbelievably stacked in his favor, which I think I think that's why the film works so well as this kind of universal political allegory that we unpacked in the episode proper, because it is such an interesting staging of late-stage capitalism or any sort of autocracy that you want to graft onto it from the real world. I think it works so well because the deck is so stacked in the favor of the Mephistopheles. I've never really seen a story that I would call a Faust fable where it's this lopsided.
That makes sense. And also, we haven't seen one where you have multiple Faustus candidates. There's always like a clear Dr. Faustus.
Or maybe a few, but not like 50.
Yeah, right. No, I've never heard you talk about multiple Fausti.
Who all...
Faustuses.
Fausti, like cacti.
Fausti.
Who all sign the contract at the same time and then have to compete with each other. You're right, it's different.
Interesting.
And visually, because it's such a... I mean, it's almost like a locked frame for the whole movie of watching the kids kind of walk by the camera as the military follows them. As each contestant falls behind and is killed, they're almost visually, to go back to the Faustus thing, kind of dragged down to hell.
Yeah,
like, they're always falling. That's how they fall behind. Like, you can't avoid the word in describing what's happening. It almost looks like they're eaten by the concrete.
Yeah.
It's like gravity gets really heavy because they're so exhausted. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
I do.
And it sounds stupid, but it looks like gravity's heavier every time we lose a contestant.
No, you're right. And none of them go willingly. Like, some of them commit some maybe like more reckless acts, like trying to grab the gun or trying to run off, knowing that it'll probably get them killed, but they're not like intending to do so. And so, but they still end up getting dragged down. And even at the very end, I won't spoil it, but somebody makes a heroic sacrifice. Okay. They're, that's like the only one. And that's the only one where it doesn't feel like they're being dragged. But all the others, it's like this out of their control, against their will, dragging down to death. Yeah.
So we have the Mephistopheles and the Faustus. We have the basic deal, the contract, the temptation. We've got all of those elemental parts of the story. But I think there's a really interesting twist here, and something that's almost never foregrounded in any adaptation. And of course, Marlowe's Faustus, which is the one I'm always referring to, is in itself a retelling or an adaptation from the original German folklore.
Faust.
So we're all, it's all variations on a theme here.
Of course,
anyway.
Yeah.
The soldiers, because you don't really see Mark Hamill in the margins, in the periphery of most of these shots.
No, he's not shooting the gun.
It's always the soldiers.
Yeah.
They're the guys driving these tanks or Humvees, whatever they are.
I don't know what they are. Don't ask
But
me.
the guys with the guns who enforce these rules when the warnings stack up, it's always the soldiers. And they're almost these grunts. They're not making the decisions. They're just enforcers. And I think the Faustus corollary is the demons. If we're saying that each time one of the kids dies, they're dragged down to hell, at the end of Faustus, it's the demons who drag him down to hell. The portal
it's not Lucifer. It's not Satan. It's
the portal opens,
demons.
and these lower level enforcer demons do the dragging.
Yeah, the grunt work.
But I mean, maybe you see them a little bit again in the margins during the Lucifer scene. Maybe they're in the bleachers during the all the 7 deadly sins and that little parade that we see in front of him during Lucifer's appearance. But you never see those grunt level demons through the rest of the play. And I think it's interesting to almost always keep them on screen here. They're like doing cleanup duty in Hell's Army. This is the first Faustus adaptation I've ever seen where they've gotten any real stage time. It almost reminds me of, I saw a performance of Richard III with, what's his name from Bilbo Baggins? Martin Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the, I'm just shorthanding it because I don't want to get into Richard III right now.
Okay.
But there's an old lady who he tries his tricks on at the end and it doesn't work. And that's kind of the domino that topples him. The staging of this version of the play had her, she was there the whole time. She was on stage the whole time, kind of watching his story play out. And so much of that story is him talking to the audience. It's the asides, it's confessional, to the point that we feel complicit in the crimes. We're in it with him. So her having that level of insight, she's seeing how the sausage is made too. So then when she delivers that comeuppance and resists all of his tricks, it's that much more effective because she's been watching them like we have.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a similar kind of trick of staging to have these lower level demons on stage the whole time during the long walk. It's something I've never seen, and I think that's maybe why none of the Faustus stuff clicked, because it's not like any other pseudo-adaptation I've ever seen.
Well, I'm especially intrigued, too, because of how distant our Mephistopheles is. Usually when you talk about Faustus, one of the things you love so much is sort of the duo element, where it's Mephistopheles and Faustus, and they've got this really complicated, messy relationship, for lack of a better word. And you can even read, like, there are a lot of queer readings of Faustus, and like that's all really interesting. Here, our Mephistopheles is so far removed, right? Like we hardly ever see him on screen, and even when we do, he's not having a personal connection with our main characters, except for a couple of key exceptional moments, such as like the reveal about he's the one who killed our main character Ray's father, and we see even he's the father of another potential Faustus, right? So that makes me wonder about who our Satan is in this situation, like in this scenario.
He's off screen.
Because he's so far removed.
He'd be whoever the president is, the unseen instigator of the Civil War that led us to this dystopia.
Which makes the whole thing feel bigger and scarier and even harder to tackle or address or confront.
Yes, exactly. But I'm comfortable calling this a remix because all the elements you just named, as someone who is increasingly familiar with this thing just by osmosis.
Well, yeah, exactly.
All of those elements are still there. The movie's still about a duo, but they switch it up. It's a remix. So the duo is two of the Faustuses.
Right.
And that's why you don't notice it. And I'm glad you spotlit that element of the commentary. There's absolutely a queer reading of this movie.
It's not a reading, it's just there.
Sure. But I'm saying all of these elements from the original are still present here. It's just remixed,
reshuffled.
to the point that it felt so fresh and compelling that even I didn't catch it, which is, I'm the final boss of the Faustus comparison. But the last point I want to play with here is, I guess, spoilers for the end of the movie. When the winner is revealed after the sacrifice that you mentioned there, which I do think is an innovation we're bringing to the formula here, because you have multiple Faustuses, you get to play around like that.
One of them gets to kind of win, or at least survive.
Once there is a winner who's revealed, and he gets this prize, he gets all of the wonders promised to them by Mephistopheles, everything he's won seems hollow and terrible, even though the whole group of Faustuses were fantasizing about it and what they'd do with the money and how their lives would change. Once it's actually there on the table for the taking, it seems empty. It's not at all worth it. He doesn't desire it at all anymore. And I think this is why we're sticking the landing, because it feels just as much a morality play as the end of Faustus proper. Because this winner, he gets the prize and leaves it behind, untouched. Like, if you look at the moral of the story that the chorus has to come out and literally narrate for the audience in Faustus, here we do that in situ. We have the character do that himself. He chooses, even after all of this carnage, he chooses not to corrupt himself. He still leaves the audience with this aspirational feeling because he doesn't engage with the temptation at all. He doesn't succumb to the money and the fame and the riches. He sticks by his principles after seeing the corrupting power of all this and how sick and twisted and broken the system is. And I think this only deepens the political commentary of the film, because we're left to wonder, in the same way Faustus leaves us with so many interesting and uncomfortable questions. Here we're left with the question of, who are the demons and forces of hell in this story? You know what I mean? It doesn't answer those questions.
Right.
It plants them in your head, and that's what the most powerful, resonant, timeless art does.
I know what you mean. I'm curious what you think, like how you read, because I get what you're saying, but I'm curious how you read what's his name, Pete?
I think so. Yeah. It's been a few days.
It's been too many days now. I think it's Peter.
I think it's Peter.
Peter's decision to kill Mark Hamill. Like, I'm curious how you read that, because he had sort of had an opposite position when Raymond told him that's what he was going to do with his wish. He kind of says, like, something to the effect of, I don't want to become like them. I don't want to sink to their level. Like, I don't want to, be this killer monster that they want me to be. How do you read that decision?
It's interesting because there's almost an exception in fiction. Good characters are allowed to do bad things sometimes if it's for a good reason and the person's bad enough.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't ruin our impression of them.
Yeah.
I feel like because it is almost, to go back to the queer reading of this, because it is an act of love on Ray's behalf, but it's also kind of ridding, it's a knock against the system more than it is the man. I almost view that murder as more symbolic than, I almost don't even see it literally. I see it as a shot across the bow against the system and this unseen Satan, or whatever the global force or government is that Mark Hamill's character represents.
And it's also interesting too that after he does that, nobody tries to kill him, because Peter's response to Raymond when he says, I'm going to kill the general, he says, well, they'll just kill you immediately. And Raymond's saying, well, it'll be worth it because I want him dead. It's very personal for Raymond. And that's sort of why Peter pushes against that. But it's interesting that here, like, I know what you're saying about this could be sort of imagined or metaphorical, because when he does shoot him, no one else shoots. Like, you think he'd get shot immediately once he pointed his gun at the general, not much less like actually shot him. So I almost read that ending as sort of an imagined or fantasy ending, and that he was probably shot right when he tried to shoot the general.
Yeah, fascist governments don't give you wish fulfillment catharsis.
Yeah.
But also, we've seen, the number of other contestants is the wrong word, but it makes me feel icky in a way that I feel like the filmmakers would approve of.
Sure.
Every time we see one of the other boys run for one of the soldiers' guns or try to escape, they're killed immediately. Like, there's not a struggle or a scuffle.
The only time they're not... Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Well, the only time they're not killed quickly is like if they want to make an example out of them and let them suffer. Like that's the only reason they're not immediately killed.
If there are like camera crews here, and all of those soldiers who've gone with them this whole walk, they're still there.
Right.
And so the second he reaches for this guy's gun, they would all have their guns trained on him.
Right.
Because that sort of dictatorship, you especially can't publicize or televise successful dissent.
No, they would shut that down immediately. There's plenty of time for it to be shut down.
Yes. I mean, the rapidity and the immediacy with which every other boy who tries to break the rules is killed. I think that's why I can't really read this as literal. And him walking off into the sunset there, it's kind of a hopeful inversion of the Faustus thing. Instead of being dragged down to hell, through the bottom of the screen like the rest of the boys, here we see someone walk off and ascend almost into heaven.
Yeah.
But again, you don't really read the end of Faustus as literal either. Regardless of how religious you are, you start thinking about the morality play element. You start thinking about justice and fairness and divinity. It stops being literal when the demons come out. So I guess that's how I'd read the end of the film.
Okay, yeah. Because I've been that's like the one thing I haven't really felt like I've landed on or solidified in my mind is how I understand the ending, because I thought it was odd that he sort of contradicted his initial thoughts, and I thought, well, perhaps it ended up becoming personal for him because of his relationship with Ray. But I don't know. Because
it's not like the Hunger Games thing, where she's got the arrow pointed at one person and then she just quickly shoots it at someone else.
Right.
This just wouldn't be allowed. Or anything, if they were to give him the gun, because he says something like, I want to pass it down to my kids.
Yeah.
They would take out the magazine.
Right.
They would take out the bullets. They wouldn't hand him a loaded gun.
Or even if they did, he points it at the general and then holds it there for like a good 30-second monologue.
What I'm saying.
Like they would take him out immediately, or they would move the general, or something would happen.
I think to go back to the queer reading, or even if you want to look at it as a fraternal love, I think whatever last part of hope and humanity that's in him that he's kind of trying to protect from this experience does die with Ray. So I think in a more metaphorical sense, Peter dies in that moment, and then everything after that, including everything with the gun and Mark Hamill, we view as some sort of afterlife or wish fulfillment or delirium or fantasy.
I see. I agree with that reading. Yeah, that makes more sense to me than the idea that he could just shoot the guy and walk away unharmed. Yeah. This reading is really interesting, and I love that you brought this up. It's so funny.
I do love being the Faustus. It really does. I love that that's what I'm known for.
Listener,
it's wonderful.
If for some reason you don't know, Cam has done many a Faustus reading upon many other things. And it's very, very fun. And I always feel like I need to clarify. Cam, can you correct me if I'm wrong? You're not saying that Stephen King is stealing from Dr. Faustus and wanted to write a Faustus story, but in a dystopian future with a long walk.
No.
That's not what you're saying.
Art is subjective. This is one useful frame that I happen to believe is the root of all good storytelling. But no, this is just an interesting lens through which we can understand stories. This is just one way of looking at anything.
Just to forestall any silly comments.
This is the one way I prefer to look at stories and have for 13 years.
Yeah, this is really fun. Well, listener, let us know what you think. Go check out our full long walk discussion. It's a pretty beefy one. We put it out. Is this going to come out on Tuesday?
If I can make that happen,
okay,
yes.
So this episode came out yesterday, the day before, whatever. Go find it. You'll find it. It was a really fun discussion. We really loved this movie, and now I appreciate it even more, and I'm glad that I have a better understanding of the ending as well.
Thank you, commenters. Thank you, Seth, from the Patreon. Thank you, Seth. Emailers. If you throw the bat signal up into the air, I will find a way to answer.
He'll make it happen. Yeah, cool.
Speaking of answering the call, we invite you to join our Patreon.
Yes, because you too can make special requests for Cam to make specific Faustus or do specific Faustus readings of things. But our Patreon is a lovely place to be. We put out 2 bonus episodes every month on the Patreon. It's a delightful time. Go check it out. And of course, you can access all the bonus episodes that we put out in the past. Also, check out Cam's latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space. Light
If you like my brain.
If you like Cam's weird brain, check out his book, his latest book. It is so funny, so much fun, so full of heart and adventure. You can read it as a regular book, paperback, ebook, etc. Or check out the audiobook. That's a really, really fun experience. You can check it out. You can find it on pretty much any streaming platform or Audible, etc. You know how the internet works. Go figure it out. Cool. Thank you all very much for listening to this delightful second bonus episode of the week. We
Third breakfast.
A lot of third breakfast. The metaphors are getting mixed. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you here in just a few days with another brand new episode.